Welcome to Long Live Baseball. We're back, baby. On this episode, Nolan Arenado, number 5 third baseman in baseball. What? Cubs make another move. The Cardinals, well, they missed out on another pitcher. What's their plan? Of course, we have Mike's dictionary segment. As always, we'll conclude the episode with bold predictions. But did you know, Mike, that 3 presidents, all founding fathers, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe, all died on July 4th. President Adams and Jefferson also died the same year, 1826. President Monroe died in 1831. Is this a coincidence?
I think that there is a conspiracy afoot.
Uh-oh.
Is it a listen? Were they fireworks accidents?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Did they eat too much? Did they eat too much apple pie and they had a heart attack?
Or maybe they were walking the parade route, and I don't know what age they were. Here's the only response that I can ever give to anyone when we're talking about presidential things presidential, the presidentialisms, is that my mother. Thank you to my mother, because. And I'm sorry, Mom, if you're watching, to disappoint you. I'm pretty sure she might have thought when I was a youngster that maybe I was going to be a future president. I don't know. I mean, so anyway, the thing that I can give a shout out to my mother about is this: Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Tyler, Polk, Taylor, Fillmore, Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, McKinley, Roosevelt, Taft. All right, you get the idea.
I think you had a list out ready to go.
I was not. You want me to do it without Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Tyler, Polk, Taylor, Fillmore, Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, McKinley, Roosevelt. Okay, that better?
Yeah. Anyway.
Actually, honestly, when I get to Taft, I kind of forget. Don't tell Mom.
Well,
it's like Hoover.
Hopefully she's not watching. Because if she's watching, she'll know.
Right, like Coolidge, Hoover, Truman, Capote. I lose track in that realm. Eisenhower's in there, Kennedy, Johnson, Ford, Lincoln, Nixon, not Lincoln. Lincoln would have been way before that. But thanks to Mom for that. That sometimes useless knowledge that you gain. But
yeah. Speaking of useless knowledge,
yes.
Did you? I don't know if you saw this. It lit Cardinals Twitter on fire.
I saw it.
Fire, Mike. Nolan Arenado is the 5th, number 5, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, best third baseman in all of baseball. And of course, the point that many people made is the fact that Nolan Arenado finished number 3 in the NL MVP voting. So how could he be the number 5 third baseman if
he's the number 3? Yeah. Great question. I don't know if I'm talking over you right now. You appear to have frozen, Seth. But that's a great question. Hey, ultimately what this points to is the fact that sports writing is not rocket science.
Sorry, I cut out there for a minute. My internet cut out. I don't know what happened, but as I was saying, I don't know how much, like, what? How? So let me, let me read the list here. So thank you to Sports Buffa. This is a tweet from Sports Buffa. All right. At STL Sports Desk on the Twitter. He says, there's no world where Nolan Arenado, a perennial MVP candidate and finalist last year, is the 5th best third baseman in baseball. He's top 3 at least. Dude won a Gold Glove every year he's been in the league and smashes baseballs in a pitcher's park. Come on. And the list, they have Manny Machado, Jose Ramirez, Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, Nolan Arenado, Alex Bregman, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Yandy Diaz, and DJ LeMahieu are their top 10 third basemen. And I agree. I think he's at least top 3. I personally, I mean, I know. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I think this just points to the fact that St. Louis Cardinals fans are uber sensitive. I mean, they're like, I would borderline soft. I mean, this is the thing that we're going to get trending on Twitter. Like we're gonna get. I mean, it's kind of like when you're talking to junior high students and you're like, listen, don't worry about what everybody else has to say about you. You know who you are. You know who you are. So I'm just, as a Cubs fan, that's just kind of the initial thought that I have as I look at the article and I think about everybody whining about the fact that, why isn't Arenado higher on the list? He could be higher on the list. He's number 5. He's at least number 3. He's not number 1. I mean, he was voted this.
You are so full of crap.
What?
You're so full of crap. If Chris Bryant during his MVP run and MLB Network came out and said he was the 5th best third baseman in baseball, Mike Jones would have been the first one on Twitter. He would have practically sprinted there to say, how can this be? This is, and I'm not. Do you hear me complaining?
Mike Jones,
we have a top 5 third baseman on our team. I believe perhaps the best player in baseball at the position. I think he's in the discussion, right? Am I upset about
this? He's on the top 10 list. He's in the top 5.
Am I upset about this? No, we have it. You know what? I have it right here in the show sheet, Mike. I have it right here in the show sheet. So we're going to the end of it, but it says, I think this is probably a good thing because it's pretty good. It's pretty good bulletin board material for somebody like Arenado to think that, if I were him, I'd say, you think I'm not the 5th best, huh? After all the Gold Gloves I've won and, after all the seasons of putting up 30 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs, I think I'm the 5th best, huh? So I think it's a good thing. I love it when people don't have any expectations for you or disrespect you. Like, I hate it whenever the Hawkeyes or, these rankings come out. I hate it when they're like in the top 15. Like, I love it when you go into the season unranked, because it's like, okay, no, you can say the thing where it's nobody respects us, nobody believes in us, but we believe obviously in ourselves. So
yeah, that's part of the beauty of baseball, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, 68 days until opening day, 28 days until pitchers and catchers report, and every baseball fan on the planet right now thinks that their team is going to win the World Series this year.
No, we talked about this last time. No, they don't.
Well,
just you guys,
springs eternal. How about that?
Or if you're gonna accuse us of being sensitive, and that's annoying to you, I guess is what you're saying.
Not annoying, just
stupid. Okay, whatever. Just a thought. This has been a thing for 20, like my entire life. It's like universal amongst Cubs fans. This eternal hope at the beginning of every year, no matter how displaced it is. Because if I were a Cubs fan, and I'm not, I would be thinking, oh, we're like 3 years away, 2-3 years away, probably.
Hey, listen, ultimately what this goes back to is a Dumb and Dumber quote.
Okay.
You're telling me there's a chance? I mean, come on. You don't at the start of this with the baseball season just 68 days away.
Mm-hmm.
It's 20 whatever until pitchers and catchers report. Spring training is like the first game is in the end of February. Okay, that's how close we are to baseball. That's the thing to be excited about. And you're telling me that you as a Cardinals fan are not sitting there thinking maybe we could win the World Series this year.
Yeah, if we had I think I'm a little bit more optimistic now that I've done a little bit more homework on this website called Fangraphs, and I'm getting excited for certain parts of our team. But in my opinion, and it's opinions are like what, everybody's got them. But in my opinion, assholes. Yeah, there we go. Whoops, sorry, Mom. In my opinion, they need a pitcher. They need, unless Jack Flaherty could be that guy, and we'll talk more about him later. But I think they need another pitcher, and I think they need more depth in the bullpen.
So really, what you're saying is,
mm-hmm.
we're just one pitcher away from winning the World Series.
I mean, being a legit contender, to be in this discussion with the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies.
I mean, come on, Major League, the movie, right? Isn't that the one with the Cleveland Guardians in it? I mean, at the time, the Cleveland Indians, wasn't that Major League, right? Mm-hmm. Major League, the guys out in the outfield, nobody's in the stands, the owner's trying to tank the season, the guys are out there, and they show up on opening day with their drum and their cheers, and they're ready to go because the Cleveland Indians are going to win the World Series. Everybody does it. I don't care if you're a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, a Toronto Blue Jays fan.
Not sure there's anything. Oh man. Did you hear what the Cincinnati Reds owner said this week?
No.
He basically came out and said, we don't have a chance.
Seriously?
Yeah. You should look that up. Like, Cincinnati Reds owner basically came out and said, like, we got a lot of good prospects, but they're not going to re-sign with us anyway. Like, totally coming off like a petulant child. Like, guys, you gave Joey Votto a bigger deal than the Cardinals have given anybody. Like, you gave Joey Votto the deal that the Cardinals wouldn't give to Albert freaking Pujols. So you come on. Like, you guys have proven that you are willing to extend guys if you want to. And you've been good in the past. Like, just, I don't know, be better as an organization. I don't know what to tell you. Like, look at the Tampa Bay Rays and the Athletics in the past. Like, it can be done. The Royals won the World Series in 2015. If you're going to be small market or claim to be a small market, then I don't know. That bothers me. Like, the teams that are actively not competing, like the Pirates, year in, year out, they bother me, Mike. They bother me.
I know they do, Seth. And maybe part of and we've had this conversation before too, I think, probably. We're beating a dead horse. But listen, what the owner has to say versus what the fans have to say is a different story. I think that when it comes to baseball, I think that one of the beautiful things about baseball is at the start of a new season, every team potentially has a chance of going all the way. It's 100. How many games is it?
162.
Yeah, 162 games. My math in my head was doing something funky there. I'm sitting there going 81 home games, and I couldn't make that add up to 162 for some reason. 162 games. That's a long season, man. A lot can happen. A lot can change. Even when you start off as one of the crappiest teams in baseball, moves can be made. Players can be acquired. Guys can hit that you didn't think were going to hit. Just things happen, man. A team can, coalesce? Is that the right word?
Congeal.
Congeal. That's the word. Yeah.
And that's kind of a disgusting word to use.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's baseball. So, I mean, the guy who never cleans his batting helmet by the end of the season because he's got a hit streak going, and the next thing you know, our team's contending. I mean, I don't think that is unique to a Cubs fan. Maybe I'm too close. Maybe I'm just a boiling frog or whatever. I don't know if that's the right term, but maybe I can't see the forest through the trees, or maybe I'm trying to come up with as many metaphors and analogies as I possibly can.
Can I ask you a question as a Cubs fan?
Absolutely.
Do you think?
Yes, we're going to win the World Series this year. We're going all the way, baby. We're making the playoffs. Oh, is that your question?
Well, I know that. I know that's how you feel, but
okay.
Whatever. It's right. However misguided and whatever you want to say about that, it is, and it is. Do you think that signing Cody Bellinger and Danny Boy and Eric Hosmer, and they signed Trey Mancini, do you think those moves are going to get Cubs fans excited enough to fill up Wrigley Field this year?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because I think the answer's if it is, if that's all it takes, then and we'll see what it's gonna like. This offseason for the Cubs has been an interesting one, and I like a lot of what they've done. I think they have a lot of bridges to different players, and it creates a runway for your guys like Pete Crow Armstrong to come up, right? And potentially what's the guy's name? The Matt Mervis, that's who I'm thinking of, to come up. And I think it's fine if that's the plan. But if ownership sees Wrigley Field full, right? And I think the Cardinals can be accused of this too. If they see it full, then it's, does that prevent them from making a trade? Does that, like from a business, I've always wondered this, but what do you think? Like, cause if I was a Cubs fan, I would think, okay, like because you're sitting there thinking, oh, we're going to win the World Series. And I would be thinking, we're probably going to finish third in the division. So do you think that's going to be enough to get people in Chicago excited?
Listen, I think you can get the thing about the Cubs is it's not just people in Chicago, right? I mean, the Cubs fan base is unique to all of baseball, in my opinion, right? Because we got people, I mean, there are season ticket holders who live in Atlanta, because they're Cubs fan. I mean, I don't know that there's any other ball club that has a fan base quite as unique as the Cubs. Now, are they going to fill Wrigley Field this year? I said unique. Okay. But are they going to fill
they're
Wrigley
unique,
Field this
all right.
year? I think that people will be interested to come out and see what we have, because they've had kind of a sneaky offseason. Yeah. We really have. I mean, we're not paying through our teeth for a bunch of high-priced, overpaid, non-doctor cleared free agents for extended contracts for years and years and years. Like we, and no offense to, Jason Hayward, but we're not doing that now. I think maybe the Cubs learned their lesson in terms of the extended contract, high money, long, because I think other teams are learning their lesson in that regard as well. Right? I mean, I'd much rather get Eric Hosmer for the league minimum than be paying him for years that he's not performing. I'd much rather take a chance on him with the new shift rule in effect than for the amount of money we're paying him and have some other team pay him for the years that we're going to have him. He's a champion, so he knows how to win. So, that's just one example. I think, when you talk about Dansby Swanson, Trey Mancini, Cody Bellinger, James Taillon, Eric Hosmer, Tucker Barnhart, Brad Boxberger, okay? When you look at that transaction list, and it reads like this: signed free agent, signed free agent, signed free agent, signed free agent. And nothing in there is like this big blockbuster 25-year, $355 million. None of it. There's none of it in there. And then you look at the Cardinals transaction sheet, and it says signed non-roster player, signed non-roster player, signed non-roster player. I think the Cubs have made some really good moves this year. So will it fill Wrigley Field? I don't know. It depends on how it pans out, doesn't it? I mean, I really think so. I think at the start of the year, you're going to have people come out and they're going to be like, Seiya Suzuki, who wasn't at the Cubs convention this year. He was kind of a missing piece, but, he was starting to get it at the end of the year last year. And so he could have a breakout year. Ian Happ was a Gold Glover last year. He was an all-star. Cody Bellinger. We've got Nick Madrigal, who's no slouch, and now he's got competition with Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, Chris Morrell, Tucker Barnhart, Jan Gomes. There's some depth. Matt Mervis potentially coming up to play first base. I think that there's some things for the Cubs to be excited about and Cubs fans to be excited about. Will they sell it out? I don't know. Cubs dropped ticket prices this year. In and amongst all of these signings, I'll be going to Wrigley Field to see what this team's all about for sure, especially if the weather's nice.
Yeah, so Mike Jones just admitted he's a fair weather fan, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, should we go around the league here, Mike, and talk about some of the happenings? Very well said and well spoken, I think. To your point, there is optimism. Everybody's optimistic to a certain extent, whether that, goes to the level or the extreme that Cubs fans go to, saying this is our year every year. I don't think it goes to that level, but it's baseball and it's exciting to see it again. So speaking of Carlos Correa, our last episode was pretty ill-timed because basically 1 or 2 days after our last episode a couple weeks ago, Carlos Correa did sign with the team. It was not with the New York Mets. It was not with the San Francisco Giants. He signs with the Twins on a 6-year deal, $200 million with like 72 clauses at the end of it or options for another year. And he signs with the Twins. And at the surface level, it feels like a good thing for both teams. And it's so interesting because I think the Twins are so similar to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals play off this oh, well, we're 12th in payroll or we're 12th in spending, and we have the 12th overall revenue, which I don't even know how that's possible. I guess if ticket prices aren't up to par with other
astronomical.
Yeah, I guess if it's pretty affordable to go to a Cardinals game, but last time I checked, I don't know, and this could just be me. I haven't looked at any numbers, but it doesn't seem like Cardinals ticket prices are all that inexpensive compared to the Red Sox or whatever. But that could just be me. But I think Minnesota's the perfect. If you want to have a comparison or a parallel to the Cardinals, it would be Minnesota. And Minnesota, obviously this deal is, I think it's official. I think it's a done deal.
Yeah.
6 years, $200 million. with a vested option for additional 4 years and $70 million. So essentially it could be a 10-year, $270 million deal. And Minnesota taking a chance on Carlos Correa on a really, really good shortstop. And I hats off to them. They're trying to be competitive. They're taking a risk. They get a superstar on somewhat of a discounted deal. So what do you think? What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, probably what was the most interesting aspect of that whole transaction to me was the presser. Because what does Carlos Correa say when the Twins sign him to the contract? Hey, this is where I always wanted to be. I mean, no, he says what a JV basketball player who's going to be on the varsity the next year says when they pull out the new uniforms. Whoa, these are clean threads. It was really all of that whole thing was very interesting to me. What did the Mets think they were going to get? I remember reading a quote. What did they think they were? I mean, they used the same doctor that was it San Diego or San Francisco? Who was it? The first signee. I don't even remember. You know what I mean? Like that seems so long ago, but of course this doctor was going to say the same thing. They used the same doctor. To me, it was baffling. I guess the Cubs get the Twins get kind of a Cubs-esque financial move. They get a good player for a lesser amount, right? But the big thing, Seth, to me, is the guy that I used time and time again last year in Beat the Streak, Luis Arez. I was shocked. They signed Carlos Correa and then trade away Luis Arez. If I'm a Cubs or if I'm a Twins fan, I don't know how I'm reacting to that move. I know they got a good thing in return, and there's some good pieces in return. But man, that kid can play. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he can hit the ball. I remember having him and Beat the Streak, and he was like he had 3 hits in a game to keep my streak alive one point last season, and it was like, man, that kid is pretty solid. So anyway, I kind of got off the.
No, I think it's a good transition. Yeah, because the Twins are made another move. I mean, they traded for Pablo Lopez, which is something that I made a video about on this channel, and you could still check it out, even though it's, as soon as, of course, I make a video about Pablo Lopez, and then 2 days later, he gets traded.
About whether or not
now my video's dead. Thanks a lot, Twins. You couldn't have waited a week or something, but
it was timely.
It was timely, yeah. So the Cardinals, were rumored to be interested in Pablo Lopez, and lo and behold, guess who wins the pony? It's the Twins again. See, this is my frustration, Mike. It seems as though a team that's very comparable to you is willing to make these. Gave up Luis Arez, a pretty good player, right? To get something they needed, right? You could argue they paid a little bit more than they might have been comfortable with, although according to the trade finder on the MLB trade finder, this is a sweetheart deal for the Twins, according to, and my initial impression of it was the team that gets the pitching typically wins the trade.
Right.
Usually, because pitching, you see what the pitching market was this year is out of control.
Right.
Right. So the Twins had some depth at second base. I don't necessarily think second base is a position that is as valuable as other positions. So I know the guy won the batting title in the AL last year. But I think it's a great move for the Twins. I wish the Cardinals would be this aggressive sometimes. But we'll allude to earlier, I don't know if the Cardinals really view starting pitching as a need for them, which is scary to me. But we'll talk more about that later when we react to the winter warm-ups, the pressers that the Cardinals had. And but yeah, I thought this was a really good deal for the Twins. And I thought that, it was somebody that the Cardinals could have traded for, because he would have instantly become the Cardinals' best starter. And that's just not me saying that. That's Fangraphs saying that. So good move for the Twins. Anything else you want to say on that?
No. Okay. I guess in the big picture, you're saying good move for the Twins, and I'm not so sure.
Okay.
I think just because I really like Erez. I mean, if I'd have known he was on the trade block, that would have been a player that I'd have been after. That's all I'm saying. And I don't think, and for some reason, like, I don't know, and maybe it's because he played for the Twins. He doesn't seem to be like a big name in baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not among the conversation of the top players in baseball to me. And I haven't looked up, like, what is his age? He's, let's see here.
Well, while you're doing that,
Yep.
Jorge Polanco, according to MLB.com or the Minnesota Twins website, figures to be their second baseman. And last year he had 375 at bats, 16 home runs, 56 RBIs, 235 average, OPS of 751. So he's likely going to fill that spot. And now you look at their starting rotation potentially. I didn't know this. They have Sonny Gray. They have Tyler Mahle, Chris Paddock, Kenta Maeda, and now you throw, Pablo Lopez in there. All of a sudden, that's a decent little rotation, especially, if they can get a Sonny Gray resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good team. I might have to go watch them when they come to town to play the Royals, because they signed Joey Gallo to a prove it deal as well, who could provide a lot of offense for them.
Is that your terminology, by the way, or is that something that you've read? A prove it deal. I like it.
Oh, I think that's I don't think I originated that. Let's just say that.
All right.
So anyway, I keep your eye out for the Twins. The Twins are making moves. They're being aggressive. And that leads us to Trey Mancini. So the Cubs signed Trey Mancini to a 2-year deal. Mike, I'm going to give you the floor. How do you feel about the Cubs signing Trey Mancini?
I think I've already kind of gone down the road of just the excitement of these signings of quality players. I mean, Trey Mancini was a comeback player of the year for the Toronto Blue Jays, I believe. Got traded to the Houston Astros. I guess at some level, another prove it deal, as you say. And one of the sites that I know you like, Fangraphs, there's also another site, Baseball Savant. I put a little link in the show notes to that. There's a layover of Trey Mancini's season last year versus at Wrigley Field. So Baseball Savant puts the layover on there. And I like what I see. Here's the thing that the Cubs, I think, are going for this year in a major way, and that's contact hitting. And Trey Mancini is a contact hitter. From everything that I've seen or read about him, he can put the ball in play, and so I think it's a great move for the Cubs. Great move, and another one of those quiet, sneaky kind of moves, I think. And so I like it for this year as we're developing, as you kind of alluded to, the next great Cubs team down the road with the prospects that we're trying to acquire as well. Mm-hmm. It's that let's be competitive now while we're building for the future kind of move, and I like it.
Speaking of the next great team. I mean, well, first, there's a couple more things to talk about. I was kind of happy to see Andrew McCutchen return to the Pirates. I think that's, a wise move for them. to bring him in. I don't know how many more years he has left in him. He seems to be a pretty decent player. He was a player that, wouldn't have been terrible in the Cardinals, with the Cardinals, but there just probably wasn't room for him. So I was happy to see that. And you'll be happy to know that on NBCSports.com that the Cubs have already had contract extensions in the works with Ian Happ and Nico Horner. So it looks as though they are working on contract extensions with them. Again, clearly, I think they view those guys as building blocks to as you say, the next great Cub team. But I'm tired of talking about the next great Cub team. I'm going to talk about this current great Cardinals team that all of a sudden has me, after doing some research, excited. So it leads me to my tweet of the week. All right. So my tweet of the week is from Cardinals Stats and Facts on Twitter, and their handle is at STL_stats_facts. And they say, I love how Jack Flaherty has never said anything negative about the Cardinals or the city of St. Louis, yet people just assume he doesn't want to be here. There's no evidence of it whatsoever. Edman wears a Chargers hat and nobody assumes he wants to be a Padre. And I got to thinking about that because I think it's true. I think a lot of Cardinals fans view Jack Flaherty in a very negative way, and I don't necessarily know if it's fair. He's had a couple of rough years, and when I was watching his interview or a presser at the winter warmups, he sorry, my wife is laughing in the other room and it's distracting me. Like out loud, like anyway. So
she's hearing you talk about the Cardinals.
So Jack Flaherty, he got emotional when he was talking about Adam Wainwright and how much Adam Wainwright meant to him. Like, had to stop talking, fought back tears. And it just made me, like, I had never honestly watched a press conference in the last couple of years with Jack Flaherty. I know he's done things like he's wore the Black Lives Matter t-shirt, which I think has rubbed some people the wrong way, which I don't really understand why. But he just came across as a genuine dude, like a really good guy in the press conference. I don't think any Cardinals fan could have come away from that and thought this guy's an a-hole.
Right.
Like he's in my prediction, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think there's a real chance he stays in St. Louis. I know he's a free agent after this year. If he has a really good season, he might be too expensive for the Cardinals. The Cardinals might get all their panties in a bunch there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think he's going to have a really good year. And I think when you start to look at this Cardinals team, and I know you talk about the next great Cubs team, but this Cardinals team, when you start to look at it, I mean, obviously you have Nolan Arenado and Goldschmidt at the corners, and those are the foundation of your team. But you also have Tommy Edman, who projects really well in the FanGraphs system. He projects as being a 3.4 wins above replacement shortstop. And you're talking about a guy who is, he's a younger guy. He's 27 years old. And he was a sixth round pick by the Cardinals. Talk about Dylan Carlson, who is, I believe, 24 years old. He's 24 years old. Going to be playing center field. He was a first round pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. Brendan Donovan finished third in the rookie year voting. Third overall in the NL Rookie of the Year voting. 7th round pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. 26 years old. I could go down the list. Lars Nootbaar. He's going to be playing left field, right field maybe. He was an 8th round pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. He's 25 years old. You're starting to get a theme of what I'm saying here. You have Nolan Gorman, 22 years old, first round pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. So the Cardinals have done an amazing job. And not to mention this guy that we have coming, this 20-year-old, can't even have a beer yet, Jordan Walker, who a lot of people think is going to make the opening day roster, first round pick by the St. Louis Cardinals. I think the next great St. Louis Cardinals team has arrived. The next great core of players. And you have that combination with Nolan Arenado and Goldschmidt. And it's coming together. You can see it coming. And a lot of fans are upset that the Cardinals haven't gone out and traded for Brian Reynolds. It's like, why would you? What kind of an upgrade is that? You look at our outfield, like Carlson, they projected 3 wins above replacement. Newt Bar 2.8 wins above replacement. O'Neill 2.7 wins above replacement. I don't know where that stacks up against other outfields, but that seems pretty good to me. Pretty good projection. So those are good players. The Nolan Gorman projects really well. And I don't even know if he's going to have a full-time role. Brendan Donovan's going to play second base. Love that guy. He seems like going to be a great player. We have a young core of position players, and now it's like, all right, this is positioned very well. Is it a perfect team? No. I think they still need another starting pitcher, preferably a top-of-the-line guy. I would, if the news broke tomorrow that they signed Andrew Chafin, because I think he's still available in free agency.
He is, but the Cubs are going to sign him.
I think that's a missing piece for the Cardinals because Genesis Cabrera struggled mightily last year. So I think they could use a left-handed reliever that they can rely on. Outside of that, you look at this roster, there's really not too many places to upgrade. So you got to give it to John Mozeliak and, Bill DeWitt for staying the course. I know they are 15th or 16th in payroll right now. The Cubs are spending more money than them, teams like that. But this team is going to be good. Jordan Walker seems like not only a young star in the making, but a guy who is just a genuinely good guy. I mean, if you watched his presser, you saw it.
Yeah.
You saw that aw shucks, he's ready for this moment. He's been working for this moment his entire life. And when you saw that, and then, the interview with Wainwright, and I just think you just get the feeling that they have this eclectic group of guys, young guys, old guys, stars. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. The more you look at it, I'm excited to see what Lars Nootbaar can do. I'm excited to see if Brendan Donovan can keep this up. Tommy Edman, I think, has proven to us now that he's a quality shortstop. And we'll see if Tyler O'Neill can bounce back. I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but the good news is the Cardinals have a lot of depth in the outfield, and they have a lot of good position players. It's just, I think the biggest question marks are with the pitching staff, but we'll see. I'm excited. I think the Cardinals are going to be a really, really good team this year. Really good.
So question for you.
Yeah.
Next year, when the Cardinals trade Lars Nootbaar to make their run, how are you going to feel about that?
I don't think that – I think – and I talked about this in the video. If they're going to trade anybody, I think they're going to trade Tyler O'Neill. Because you saw it last year, right? They weren't willing to trade Dylan Carlson for Juan freaking Soto, right?
Right.
So if that was the piece, that tells you how they feel about Dylan Carlson's potential. And in the Sean Murphy trade, apparently that was the hang up there. They didn't want to trade Lars Nootbaar away. So if they're not willing to trade Lars Nootbaar for an all-star defensive stud of a catcher, then who exactly are they willing to trade him away for? Juan Soto, best player in baseball? The Cardinals said no thanks. Like, so that tells me that they're committed to these guys for better or for worse. And, I think as Cardinals fans, I think, you have to be excited for what they can do. And they're young. They're under control. The Cardinals are not going to have to pay them anytime soon. I think they're going to have a decision to make on Tommy Edman and then Jack Flaherty in the recent future. But we'll see. I mean, but these other players, it's going to be a while. They're going to have these guys for a long time,
Right,
before they have to. So you start talking about, how the Braves have everybody locked up. So do the Cardinals. So this, I mean, 2 more years of Goldschmidt, 4 more years after this year of Arenado. So we'll see. It's exciting.
They're going to be. I mean, listen, the National League Central is going to be fun this year. Let's talk about that.
I won't go that far.
You don't think so? Okay.
Well, we have the Reds and the Pirates in there.
3 teams. But is any division solid top to bottom?
Probably the NL East, you could say.
Okay. All right. But listen, the top 3 teams, the only teams that matter in the National League Central, it's going to be kind of fun this year, I think.
Yeah. I think I'm not as optimistic as you about the Cubs. I think the Cubs are, I still think they're probably 3rd in the division, but they'll give the Cardinals fits just like they do every year. So.
All right. That's an interesting. That almost sounds like a bold prediction.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're saying they're going to finish 3rd in the division.
Yeah,
the Cubs aren't.
I think that's very diplomatic. I think that's a fair and nuanced take, without in disregard of emotion completely.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Like you just look at. I mean, I'm looking at the research here, Mike. And I think they lack some pitching.
I got you.
So,
all right. So I think you're on the tweet of the week, and I think my tweet of the week. I've got a serious tweet of the week and a not so serious tweet of the week. If I can do 2, I mean, I know you get a little verklempt about me doing 2 tweets of the week. But
well, I mean, I can't, this is a fight, Mike. Every time we come on the show, it's like I can't let Mike just ramble on for an hour and a half about how great the Cubs are.
Oh my gosh. Are there analytics for who speaks more on the show?
Yeah, they have it in the presidential debates or have you ever seen those breakdowns? Yeah. Like, well, Trump got 12 more minutes than Hillary. Oh, anyway. I think, man, is he frozen? Is Mike Jones frozen in time? So how many bad things can I say about the Cubs before Mike comes back? Let's see. All right. I don't know if we've lost Mike or not. But here's what I was talking about with the lack of pitching. So you have Marcus Stroman, Jamison Talion, who project pretty good. Then you have the Justin Steeles, the Drew Smileys, who you're not really sure what you're going to get out of them. Adbert Alzolay doesn't really project that well, according to Fangraphs. They think he's going to be more of a bullpen arm. It doesn't really have him projected to start many games. Kyle Hendricks getting up there in age. I know that Mike's affinity for Kyle Hendricks is off the chart, but according to Fangraphs, he does not project well. 0.7 wins above replacement. So as you can see, as typical, Mike's hope and enthusiasm, like the Cubs are doing some good things, but it's the hope is a little bit misplaced, is what I'm saying. And Mike has texted me. I know you're waiting on bated breath. Okay, so Mike's power went out. So I'm going to finish the show on my own, and that's going to be fine. So I'm going to finish the show on my own. And long live baseball. Let's go to Mike's tweet. All right. Mike's tweet of the week. It says Chicago Cubs signing one of the top shortstops in the Dominican Republic this year, Angel Angel Cepeda. And this is from Ben Badler at Ben Badler on Twitter. And his other tweet of the week. And again, I can't give you this, hyperbole that Mike would give. From at 1 million Cubs fans, condolences going out to the at Tony Buckets 18 Cubs fan club. Put together some of Anthony's Cubs highlights in memory of Anthony K's Chicago Cubs career. So Mike, I guess I don't know. Apparently there was a guy who passed away, and it looks like it might have been I don't know. I'm not sure what this is. I don't want to speculate on it. So anyway, we're talking about the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I think, as I was discussing earlier, are one of the more exciting teams in baseball. I think they have a lot of young talent, especially positional wise. You look at Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, Tyler O'Neill. If Tyler O'Neill can get back to where he was in 2019, or was it 2020, where he hit 30 home runs, that's exciting. Obviously, you have Nolan Arenado and Goldschmidt as the anchors for that team. And of course, everything's going to hinge on the pitching, right? If Jack Flaherty can bounce back, if Adam Wainwright can do what he did last year, if Michaelis can keep the same performance going, then I like our chances. I really do. However, I do think there's a hole there. I think you could always add more pitching. I think the Cardinals are short a starting pitcher, especially at the top of the rotation once it comes playoff time. Of course, you got to make the playoffs before you have to worry about the playoffs. They could also use a left-handed reliever in the bullpen. I think Andrew Chafin would be perfect for that. We'll see what they do. There's time left. Like I said on the last episode, the Cardinals didn't make moves until they didn't sign their free agents until March last year. The Drew Verhagen contract wasn't signed until March. Same thing with Corey Dickerson and the other reliever that we signed as well. It didn't happen until March. So there's still time, Cardinals fans, for us to make moves. Nick Whitgren is the guy I couldn't think of. And so to talk about Jack Flaherty for another moment, Jack Flaherty, I believe, is poised for a breakout season. This is his contract year, and it's not just because of that. But when you saw him talk in the presser at the winter warmups, it felt genuine. He expressed his affinity for Adam Wainwright, and it just kind of felt like a guy who is in a special place in his life, has perspective of going through injuries, and it really feels like he is on a good track to be a really good player. So I'm excited for that. I think Cardinals fans should be excited for the year. I think the Cardinals have given themselves a lot of flexibility to make moves within the season. So even if the Cardinals don't trade for a guy before the season starts, I think, that was one of Mozeliak's quotes at the winter warmups was, we have a lot of flexibility. And he even said, we have money to spend. And he said, will that money be spent by the end of the year? And he said, yes, it will be. So he said rather, yes, likely it will be. So I think there's a move coming. I think it's going to be for a starting pitcher. I think they're playing a little bit of poker there. So I think the Cardinals are in a really, really good spot. And I think I will leave it at that. I will push Mike's Dictionary segment to the last, to next week, or to the 2 weeks from now, whenever we do this show again. And I'll give you my bold prediction. I can't give you Mike's bold prediction because I'm not Mike. But my bold prediction is that the Cardinals resign Jack Flaherty. I think it's going to happen. I think they're going to view him as having the biggest upside out of all their pitchers. And I think he's going to have a really good year this year. So they're going to have to pay up for him. But when he was talking about how he felt about Adam Wainwright, it really felt to me like this could be a passing of the guard. And if the Cardinals announce an extension for Jack Flaherty, I'm going to be the happiest Cardinal fan there is, because I think he deserves it. I think he's worked hard and battled through injuries. I think he's proven that he can be a top of the rotation caliber pitcher. And it's all going to come down to price, as it always does for the Cardinals. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do believe that Jack Flaherty is going to resign with the Cardinals. And I think that this Cardinals offense as well, that ranked number 3 in the NL, or in Major League Baseball rather, in runs scored, I think it could be even better this year. I think you're seeing an emergence of talent arriving at the major league level. And that's not even counting Jordan Walker. I think the more time these guys get, the Lars Nootbaars, the Brendan Donovans, the Dylan Carlsons, he battled injuries last year. The more time these guys get at the major league level, the better, right? And they're just going to get better and better and better with experience. And Tommy Edman is a guy that's been as consistent as you could be at that position, at shortstop. And it's hard to upgrade some of those positions. So it's really hard to knock the Cardinals for not doing that. So I think you're seeing all of these guys coming to the big club, getting experience under their belt at the same time. And what you didn't have when Stephen Piscotty and Randall Grichuk, the last crop of prospects, came up, you didn't have established stars like Goldschmidt and Arenado to be the anchors of that team. Back when Piscotty was hitting third in their lineup and Grichuk was, back when they were depending on those guys to be stars and middle of the order guys, they didn't, I said at the time they needed, and they tried to do it with Marcell Ozuna, but it just didn't work out. And I said it then, they need somebody to hit number 3, third in the lineup, fourth in the lineup, because that drops everybody down the order, takes the pressure off of Stephen Piscotty and Randall Grichuk to not be those guys. And guess what? Lars Nootbaar doesn't have to hit third for the Cardinals. Tyler O'Neill doesn't have to hit fourth for the Cardinals, right? Because you have Wilson Contreras now to add to that mix. So, you have Wilson Contreras, Arenado, Goldschmidt, who are middle of the order type players. And now you have Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman, Lars Nootbaar, Dylan Carlson, who can hit 7th, 2nd, 8th in the order. And it's, we're good. And it's a really good lineup. And it projects really well. So I'm excited. I think the Cardinals are going to win the Central this year. The Cubs are not going to make the playoffs. I'm sorry. They're just not as talented of a team as Milwaukee or St. Louis. And the wild cards are likely going to come from the NL East unless one of those teams collapses. And so all this optimism Mike Jones has, I'm here to bring it back down to reality. I'm the realist of the show. So there you go. And I think that will do it for us. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel. A link to the podcast will be down in the description below. And so check that out. If you can't get to YouTube, you can always download the podcast, listen to it in your car. Maybe you're doing that right now. That would be awesome. So again, you can follow me on Twitter at Seth_DIEWOLD. You can follow Mike at Michael Jones IA on Twitter. You can follow the show on Twitter at Long Live Baseball with 1 L on the word ball. And that is all. Thank you again. Go Cardinals and long live baseball.